Kaivac Tech Support. Today we're going to do a video to show you how to troubleshoot low pressure on your no-touch cleaning machines. It's a little different than no pressure. If you're not getting any water flow whatsoever, see our priming video first. You may need to come back and have a look at this one, but you need to get your water flowing first. But this is, if you got some flow, just not enough. So the first thing that could be the problem would be the gun. May not be going into high and low pressure properly. You may have some debris in the high pressure orifice. Your valve, your mini ball valve here may not be opening and closing properly. The other is blockage on the inbound, which is basically from the tank to the pump. There's a water filter in your clean water tank. I'm going to show you how to get to that, how to clean it. The other common problem would be blockage on the outbound, which is typically in your chemical injector's orifice. So we'll show you how to test that. If it isn't those things, then your unloader could be not opening and closing all the way. I'll show you how to test that. If it's none of those things, it more than likely could be something in your pump. So if you start off and you look, you go to clean your filter and it's missing, there's a good chance you've got debris inside your pump. Check out our pump maintenance video. We'll show you how to clean those valves inside your pump. Okay, the first thing you need to eliminate would be your gun. You need to make sure your gun is going into high pressure properly. Make sure you're opening your mini ball valve here and your handle's not loose. If it is, the inside part may not be open and closing all the way and might be giving you a restriction. So you need to make sure your gun's going into high. If the nozzle's out, that's low. When you pull it in, that's high. If it's not moving at all, you may need to lubricate up underneath here to get that into high and low. Another thing though is your high pressure orifice in here. If you get some debris in there, that would only affect your high pressure. Now your low pressure would be normal, but your high pressure may come out a little crooked. It may just seem like you're just not getting as much water flow as you were before. So there is an Allen wrench that comes with the, let's see if you can see that. There's an Allen wrench here that comes in your metering tip pack. That Allen wrench, it's a 5/64 Allen wrench if you can't find your metering tip pack. You can use that to remove this orifice. Clean that, put it back in, and that should get you back where you need to go as far as your high pressure is concerned. The next thing that you would want to eliminate as being a possibility is your clean water filter. In all of our no-touch cleaning machines, the filter is located inside the clean water tank. With the 1750, to get access to it, you're going to need to remove your top tank. There's an access lid on your clean water tank that allows you to get to it. You'll need to remove that, clean that off, put it back in. On the 1250, the water filter is down here in your clean water tank. Pay attention to which hole you remove it from and make sure you put it back in the same one. Alright, this is the 2150. We showed you guys how to clean your filters on the 1250 and 1750. The 2150, it's a little more difficult to reach down there and get to the filter. I've got pretty long arms and I can reach it, but if you're having trouble reaching it, you can actually just use your wand to clean it. Just attach this to your vac hose and you can just stick your wand down here and just vacuum the filter off if you're going to do it on a regular basis. You can do that. Now if it gets really dirty, you may need to find somebody that can reach down there and get it out and clean it. So let me show you where this is in here. If you're looking at it from this side of the machine, it's going to be the fitting closest to you. So if you do take it out, make sure you put it back in the right inlet there. Alright, let me show you how to get to the water filter on the 1750. It's really quite simple. You won't need any tools. If your back hose is wrapped around the front, you'll need to remove that. You're going to need to remove this little short vacuum hose here. There are two snap straps up front, and there's these two snap straps here by the handles. So we'll disconnect these two, and then we'll disconnect these two. Now make sure your vac tank is empty before you do this. You don't want to lift a 100-pound or 200 pounds worth of water off of here. Just take it right off, set it aside. We've got an access lid here, so hopefully you can see that filter in there. Now you'll just reach your arm in there and unscrew it. It's just regular threads, counterclockwise to remove it, clockwise to put it back in. Most of the time you can just rub your thumb and fingers on it, splash it around in your water. If it's really dirty, you may need to take it to a faucet and back flush it out, basically force some water through the opposite way that it would flow. The next thing that we see is blockage on the outbound. So the filter is your typical inbound blockage. The injector is your outbound. Now, in order to get 500 psi out of these machines, you're going to need to get approximately a gallon of water per minute forced through the orifice of this gun. So if you're not getting a gallon per minute, you're not going to get 500 psi. If you can't get a gallon per minute from the tank to the pump, you're not going to get a gallon per minute out of the pump. If you can't get a gallon per minute passed through this injector, you're not going to get your 500 psi. So after you've checked your filter, we're going to disconnect the pressure hose from the injector, and then we're going to disconnect the injector from the pulse hose. Now, then we will reconnect. Let me get some of this hose off of here. We're going to reconnect our pressure hose directly to the pulse hose. Now, we're basically just bypassing this injector, just to see if that's what the problem is. So once we've cleaned our filter, we've got our injector out, now we can turn our pump on and we can see if we've got our pressure back. Now, if we do, you want to clean this injector. It just means you've got some debris in this orifice here. Most of the time, you can actually just take your gun, since you've gotten your pressure back, and you actually want to fire your gun in through the male side of this quick release. That would flush any water. Now, if it's mineral buildup, the gun's not going to work. You're going to need to remove that orifice and clean that manually. Okay, so we've eliminated the most common problems. We've eliminated the gun not going into high pressure and possibly the orifice. We've also eliminated blockage on the inbound, which is your filter, and we've eliminated blockage on the outbound, which is your chemical injector. So with the chemical injector off, or if none of those resolve your problem, or maybe it brought your pressure back a little bit, but still not where it needs to be, the next step would be to test your unloader to make sure that it's functioning properly. So when the pump is on and you're spraying your water, your entire gallon per minute is going through your pressure hose and out your gun. When you stop spraying your gun, the pressure builds up and the unloader opens up and sends the water back to your clean water tank. So it's actually a pretty easy test. The return line in the 1250 is down here on the bottom. We'll show you that. Now it's harder to see the flow on the unloader return line down there, so what you normally would do is stick your finger in there and just see if you can feel the water coming back out through there when it shouldn't be. Let me show you how to do that on the 1750. So first thing you'll need to do is you can remove your lids here. See if you can see the upper fitting there. The one at the very bottom is your filter. The return line for the 1750 is about maybe 8 or 10 inches off the bottom and just off to the side a little bit from where the filter is. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn on our pump, and we want to make sure the injector is off while we do this test, and since it's the next step, we've already got it off. So I'm going to turn on this pump, and you should see, once it primes, you should see the water returning, since I'm not going to be spraying the gun. So let me show you that. You can see the water trickling back in. Okay. I'm not spraying the gun, so that's what it's supposed to be doing. Now when I pull the trigger on the gun, that should stop. You notice there's no water returning now. When I release the gun, the pressure builds. Starts to return. Pull the trigger, and it stops. So if you pull the trigger on your gun and the water continues to return, then your regulator is not opening and closing and may need to be replaced. Alright, so if none of those things seem to resolve the issue, we're probably looking at something internal to the pump. So, but one thing you can do is what we call a flow rate test. We just want to see how much water is flowing from your pump in 60 seconds. So what you'll need is an empty gallon jug. You're going to do the test 3 times. The first time you do the test, you'll take the gun off, open your valve, put it into your gallon jug, turn on your pump, and watch the clock for 60 seconds. At the end of 60 seconds, turn your pump off or throw the valve at 60 seconds. Now, you should be pretty close to a gallon. And it may even overflow. You could actually get just a hair more than a gallon. So if it starts to overflow, obviously turn it off. So what that means is your pump is working with no gun on there. And at that point, it's fine. So we're going to then do the same test, but we're going to put the gun on. And we're going to put the gun in low. You know, turn on your valve. And do the same test with the gun in low, 60 seconds, and the two should be the same. Now, if they're not, it could mean that you got some mineral buildup in your gun, some blockage has gotten through somehow and is clogging your gun, because we're getting a gallon per minute here, just not from here. It could also mean that the seals on your pump are bad, or even that your regulator, even though we just did that regulator test, it's just not quite sealing. So check out our video on pump maintenance. It'll show you how to change the regulator. You can check out our video on our gun. We'll try to show you how to get that mineral buildup out of your gun. Now, the third test is you're going to put the gun in high pressure and do the same thing. So if in high pressure, all of a sudden it drops to where you're only getting a half gallon. You got a gallon per minute in the first 2 tests, and then you go to high pressure and it drops tremendously. Now, if it does, do the test again, but this time you're going to watch your return line regulator, your unloader return line, and watch for that water coming back while you're doing it in high pressure. If you're seeing the water return while you're doing it in high pressure, you need a new regulator. If the regulator is not returning while you're doing it in high pressure and you're still only getting a half gallon per minute, then that means the seals on your pump need to be replaced. We do have a rebuild kit for the pump, and we will do a separate video that shows you how to replace those seals. And then that should take care of all your low pressure problems.